Hey fellow designers, it's Karen of Made by Karen M Sewing Patterns. Today I'm going to show you guys how I created this shoulder structure for this custom prom dress that I made for May of 2025. This is the inspiration photo that my client asked me to replicate, and I think I got it pretty spot on. So stay tuned and I'll show you how. Y'all know my favorite thing to use is flat steel boning, so that's what I'm going to be using here. It's so sturdy. It holds whatever shape I give it. I use it for any and everything, not just corsets. Anything that it might make sense, I'm going to use flat steel boning. So in the last clip, I just had it kind of like curved, obviously. I took it off and I actually bent it a little bit more so it could be bent like in the back and go more a little bit straight across the back of the body. And so now I'm about to cut out some fabric, some interfacing, and a piece of double fold bias tape so that I can sew that to the interfacing. I can insert the boning in there, and then I can cover the whole thing with fabric and petals. Okay, this is how I'm drawing the pattern on my interfacing. Fingers crossed, because this is the only big piece I have. So starting down here, 3 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide. It tapers here. This is 11 inches long, which matches the length of how far it goes back on my piece there. And then this is 5 inches because it's 10 inches across the back, 3 inches wide. So I'm about to cut this out and see if it's a good match for the wire. Okay, so I'm gonna trim this a little bit. It's a little long on this side. To me, like visually, it looks even back here. So just gonna clean that up, and yeah, I'm gonna cut this piece, and so I'm gonna cover this with the main dress fabric, and this is not her laces. It's temporary. I'm so ready to be done with dresses. This was actually my big finale dress of prom 2025, you guys. Okay, first thing I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of extra wide double fold bias binding, and I am sewing it along the interfacing. It's not the right color. I do not care because this is all getting covered up. I don't have anything silver or white or anything that would match this. So we're using what we have on hand, and it's not going to be visible, so it really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to stitch down only the side with the open fold because of how awkward that piece has to bend. Should I stitch down both sides? I feel like, because it doesn't like, I don't know, let me see. I did end up stitching both sides down, and then I tried to insert the flat steel boning into the bias binding. However, with the edge being super like sharp, I did wind up going back and putting tips on it to make it a little bit more smooth on the edge so it could slide through easier. It was still quite challenging, but adding the rounded tip on the end, which I got from Amazon, it's in my Amazon storefront, that did make it a lot easier. It took me quite a while, but I finally got the flat steel boning in here. I even had to use my heat press, like as I was sliding it through, to clamp down on it and pull the excess back. So my shape is there. It is a little wrinkly here, so I think I'm gonna trim it like a little bit more. Get rid of that wrinkling. So I wonder if I iron it, will it go flat? Probably not. Or should I just turn it back like this? Maybe I should. There you go. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this more, like, just leave like a 1/3 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, because we don't need all that wrinkling. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the other fabric. Okay, so I'm covering the bottom with this metallic, I think it's called Lurex. It's a non-stretch. Now the dress is silver glitter mesh lined with white fabric, but it just made sense for the bottom of this to be plain silver and not glitter mesh because that would scratch her skin. Okay, this is what we got. It's a little wrinkly under here. So it would have been better for me to use a stretch fabric. I did have stretch fabric, but it was satin spandex and I didn't want it to snag. But just because of the curve, a stretch fabric would have been neater. But I have the bottom covered, and now I'm going to go back and cover the top with glitter mesh and the white. Here I am covering the other side with my glitter mesh and the white fabric, which is just a satin. And all I'm doing is just covering it by pinning the raw edge in. And I'm going to be sewing along the very, very edge. I didn't have fabric cut for this part. I just took a huge scrap. And so once I pinned that top edge, now I'm just going along the bottom edge and kind of trimming it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I can just go ahead and fold that bottom part in, pin that down, and then be able to sew both edges. So here's my dress without the shoulder action. I'm getting ready to go ahead and pin it back into place and hand stitch it on. And here's a close-up of the top of the corset. Okay, it's looking how I want it to look. So now I'm gonna be hand tacking this down. I'm gonna stitch around here, and then I'll be able to start adding my petals. And just as a reminder, this is the inspiration photo that my client asked me to replicate on her dress. I will add that the petals, once I started adding them, they really weighed down that structure piece. So if you're at all concerned about your piece being too stiff or too high, don't be, because once you add petals, it's going to drape down a little bit more. And here I am hand stitching those edges down to the top of the dress. I have a few inches of overlap just to make sure that it is secure. Okay, I am doing just a basic back stitch to attach this to the corset top. And I'm just going through all the layers so it can be secure as possible. I'm really happy with the structure, like super happy with it, y'all. I swear by flat steel boning. I swear, I put some people onto flat steel boning. I still see some people that haven't figured it out yet, but if you have not tried flat steel boning, like, it works for everything. Like, the structure is unmatched, just unmatched. Just look at how this is standing up. It's standing up on its own. So I've started pinning these on. I'm just going to be sewing them down one by one. And it's not super hard to sew them down. Just, you know, a handful of stitches, maybe like 5-6 stitches to make sure that the petal is secure. But we're going to be covering the whole thing with petals. And then we're also going to come down here. I'm about to run to Hobby Lobby real quick because I want to see if they have more of this. I think these would be cute to throw in there as well, because she wants her dress to be super, super sparkly. This is my last dress of Prom 2025. So I do want to, you know, make it a big grand finale. Gonna see what razzle dazzle I can add to it. So I got my bead trees from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to be doing a combination of pearls and rhinestones, and I'm just separating them because I'm not going to put whole bunches together. So I have one set of pearls, one set of rhinestones, and I'm just kind of twisting them together. And then at the bottom, I'm going to kind of loop them so I have a base that I'm able to sew down to my dress. And then once I have that sewn down, I will stitch a petal over it so that the base won't be visible. And if you have too much of a wire tail, feel free to snip off the excess like I'm doing here. So I'm just holding this up, and see, I placed a petal over it just to get an idea of how it'll look. I'm now pinning it down so I can stitch it into place, and then I will cover it with the petal. And I'm just looping my needle and thread around that wire loop over and over and over and over until I feel it's fully secure. I'm going to cover with this satin spandex petal first, and then I'm going to put a glitter mesh petal over it. I like to have different textures and looks of petals to kind of mix things up so it doesn't look so monotone. And I will pin things and unpin them and repin them until it just looks exactly how I want it to look. It's like when you're cooking and people say, just sprinkle until the ancestors say stop. That's the feeling that I have when I'm placing petals and embellishments on a dress. Like, I'll know when it's right when I see that it's right. And now I'm sewing down that glitter mesh petal, and I just kind of tack it all around the bottom edges so that that top like pointy part is still free, but the bottom is secure and covering up what I need it to cover. And here's the other side. I started to go ahead and add some on the other side of the dress as well, just so I could go little by little and make sure things are symmetrical as I go. And here is another little progress update. As you can see, I do a handful of petals followed by a sprinkling of pearls and rhinestones. Here's a tip for when you're sewing on these bead trees. You can wrap them into a circular shape at the bottom. That way you can wrap your thread around it and secure it to your dress, and then simply cover it up with an applique or a petal. Oh my goodness, I'm finally almost done with this. I think I'm gonna need like 5 more, maybe not even 5 more petals, maybe like 3 more petals on top of what I already have left to add here. And then I just need to figure out what to do with the front. I got the ribbon for the back. I only could find 1-inch ribbon. But yeah, and then I just need to clean up the waistline. I might E6000 some strips of glitter mesh, and then I'm gonna glue some stones on the front. And here is the finished dress, guys, all hung up and ready to go in the bag. I was extremely pleased with how this dress came out. I loved every detail. I feel like I really put a lot of effort into it, and it came out perfect. If you guys want more information on how I created it from start to finish, I did use my Princess Seam Corset sewing course, and there is a video added to the playlist of that course showing how I created the pointy corset before I added the shoulder structure. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.